Welcome to Heavenly Creations. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make these cupcake decorations. Type of baseball cupcakes. So what I'm going to make now is an actual baseball, a flat baseball that will go onto a cupcake. So first I need to roll out some white fondant. And you don't want it super thin, but we don't need it really thick either. So we're just going to kind of get it in between. And then I'm going to punch out a circle. I have a circle cutter. I'm going to cut out about, I think, 3 or 4 of these. Let's do 3. And then just pull away the extra. Oops. Apparently I didn't get them cut all the way through. And then what I'm going to do with these is set them aside for just a second, and I'm going to make the bee that's going to go on top of them, and then we'll draw on the lines that will make it look like a baseball. And since these are for cupcakes, they don't need to be super big, so I'm going to grab my red fondant that I've got over here. Roll it out. Again, we don't need it super thin, but we don't really want it super thick either. And we're going to cut out 3 bees, and I've got a little bee cutter here. And sometimes with the letters you have to be pretty patient and pretty careful with getting the inside of a letter out. You may have to use a knife and get the inner part of the bee out. We'll fix that up in a second. We need another 2. And the harder you push on these, oftentimes the easier it is to get them to come out perfectly. And sometimes you can't get them out of the cutter. Oops, tore that one. Have to try it again. Put a little bit of Crisco on there so they don't stick. It happens. These letters aren't really big, and so getting them out can be challenging. I think this one ought to work. Got it. And like I said, they might be a little bit misshapen when you first get them out. So you can reshapen them into a bee. And we need one more. And I'm just poking the little middle sections of the bee back up into itself. And we'll get those out in a little bit. And then to get it out, I'm just sticking it along the side. Carefully pulling it out. There we go. So now we have our bees. We don't need this, so we'll get rid of that. Oops. And then we're going to stick the bees onto the white here. I'm just going to do that with a little bit of our edible paste, which I have on my finger here. You can also just use water. Gum paste adheres to itself if you add a little bit of water to it. And then we just want to stick these right in the center of the circle. Just like that. Do it again with all The other two, ooh. The red fondant is very, very red, so as soon as you touch it to white, it's gonna make it pink. So just beware of that. As soon as you set it down on a piece of white fondant, it will turn it pink. And then in order to make the baseball veins, we're gonna just use our edible pen and draw them on here. And the veins of a baseball kind of curve in and then also have a little bit of kind of edges on them. So here we go. We're going to just draw these on here like that. We'll do all one side first. Draw these on here like that. It's not perfect, but we'll do the best we can, and then to turn them over sometimes helps so you can get the same angle. Like that. Kind of looking like a baseball. So we just draw them on. Then we're going to come back here and we're going to draw, they have little bits of veins on them going down, so we're going to kind of go like this. It's the stitching on a baseball. If you've ever looked at a baseball, they have little bits of stitching going down them that's holding the leather of the baseball together. So we're just doing the veins. And you just do that with all 3 of your baseballs. And they aren't perfect, but from a distance too, you know, I mean, people are going to eat this, so it's fun to do. It takes some time, but it gets you the idea of a baseball. And then once you set this on top of a cupcake, it looks like a baseball, and for me, it looks like a Red Sox baseball. So we just keep drawing these until we've got all 3 of them done. We're almost done. Once you've got one completed, that's what it looks like. Little baseball with a B on it for baseball. But it's red for Red Sox. And I'm making red socks right now, so I'm actually going to cut out a pair of red socks. So this is backwards for you, but hopefully it'll make sense. So they don't need to be really big socks. And you can do a pretty generic style sock. A tube sock works pretty well. So if you want to do that, or if you want to cut kind of a little bit of a arch support in your sock. So we're going to make 2 of them, so we have a pair of red socks. And then we're going to add a little bit of an embellishment on them once we get them all cut out. So let's see what they look like here. Again, they're not real fancy, but gives you the idea of red socks. So we've got those. Then we're going to take them, and up at the top, we're going to actually add a bit of detail to them. Going to kind of create a line. And then this would be where there's kind of the tighter part of your sock. Some lines up there where there's more elastic in your socks. And then with some white fondant, we're going to take and create what looks like the pad part of the sock. So I'm going to create a little bit of a toe. Stick the toe on there. Like that, and put a toe on the other one. So we're just creating a little bit of depth to it. And then we're going to put a little bit of a heel on it as well. Kinda, just so there's a little bit of a definition to it. So add a heel on both socks. You can do this however you want. You can make them far more detailed if you delight, but otherwise, whoops, you've got yourself a red sock. And once you set them next to each other, which you'll kind of lay them like that on each other on a cupcake, you've got 2 red socks for the baseball team Red Sox. So another decoration you can use for baseball themed cupcakes. I'm going to be showing you how to make a baseball mitt out of fondant. So I've taken some fondant and I've colored it a kind of brown color here. And I have a couple of balls of fondant. They're rather small. And what I'm going to do first is take the ball and actually kind of just squish it in my hand. And it makes it kind of flat with a bit of a dome at the end. And what I'm going to do is just kind of form it so that it's a little bit rounded, almost like a little cup, just like that. And then I'm going to take a knife and I'm going to give it the shape of the fingers of that actual mitt. So I can zoom in for you here so you can kind of see what I'm doing as I'm working on it. So I'm just going to kind of give it the shape of a mitt. So you got a couple fingers here. So I'm just going to make some indents first off, and then I'm going to kind of, so this one I'm going to actually separate as the thumb is a little bit separate, and then just kind of pushing. I'm just making it look a little bit like a mitt. So we're just working on it like this. So slowly it's kind of turning into looking like a mitt, and then we can kind of push in the center and give it a bit of a curve again so that it kind of looks like a mitt as it's sitting there. And then when you stick it in the cupcake, you'll stick it in like this, and we're going to make a baseball that'll go right in front of it, so it'll actually kind of look like it's about ready to catch a baseball. So you just kind of, it's just kind of a rough idea, but there we go. There's a little baseball mitt, nothing fancy. But once you get it paired up with a baseball, it looks a little bit better. So I'll show you in a second when I get a baseball. So a bat is thinner on one end and thicker on the other. So we're just going to roll this out, but keeping it so that one end is getting thinner and the other end is getting fatter. I'm just going to kind of keep rolling it till we get it to what we want it to look like. And that's about what I want. And then I'm going to actually cut it off on one end and cut it off on the other end so that it's symmetrical. And the end that is thinner, I'm not really going to do a whole lot with, except that I'm just going to use the end of this knife to give it a bit of a dip in the end, like a bat. So it's got a little bit of a dip in the end, so it kind of looks like a bat there. And then at these other end, the bigger end, we want that to actually be rounded like a bat. So we're just going to kind of massage it until it becomes a little bit rounded on that end. So just play with it until we get it to about the right size. I think that's close, and if you want to roll it out a little bit more, you can do that. So there's our bat, and then to give it the look of actual wood, we're just going to take the dull side of the knife and we're going to run it along it and make it have a little bit of grooves. So it kind of just looks like wood. Don't push hard. And they don't have to be perfect. The idea is just to give it a little bit of texture. So just running it along there. Just giving it some definition. So there's our bat. Again, these are kind of just rough, but the idea is there. And if you still want it a little bit thinner, you can just roll it out a little bit more until you get the bat look that you're looking for. So there's our bat, and we made a mitt. And then next, what you make to accompany these is a baseball. I have some white fondant that I've been keeping in a Ziploc bag to keep it from drying out. So I'm going to get my white fondant out. And then obviously you don't want the baseball to be too big. That's probably the biggest size you want. And then you just want to make them into a perfect ball. So roll your hands together till you get the ball size that you want. I'm going to make 2 here, so I'm just going to do this until I get them to the right size. There's 2 baseballs, and then I have an edible marker by Wilton, the Food Writer. This one is the red marker, and I'm going to create the lines on the baseball. So a baseball has lines going kind of odd on a baseball, but you just draw on the lines that you want. So we're going to draw on the lines here of this baseball. So we're going to start on one side and draw them on. It just takes a little bit of time. And these markers are pretty effective, so beware of that. Anywhere you touch them, especially on a piece of white fondant like this, will color it perfectly. So if you don't want your coloring in that spot, don't put it down. So I'm trying to get this without leaking the dye. So there's our baseball, and then we're going to set that right next to the baseball mitt or right next to the baseball bat, and you will have some edible baseball decorations to put on cupcakes. So today we made a mitt and a ball, a bat and a ball, some socks for the Red Sox, and also some flat baseballs with a bee on them. Hope this video was useful. Hope you enjoy making these. As always, feel free to subscribe below or like my channel, and I hope you have fun making a baseball themed either cakes or cupcakes.